Let's talk about computing. Like I said before, NASA and most technology, we didn't have the high-tech computers and calculators like we do now back in the day in the 60s. NASA's computing system was a huge step toward navigation and portable computing, which is vital when you're on the other side of the moon with zero communication with Earth. The software had to be bug-free because once the program was loaded onto the hardware, onto the Apollo computers, they cannot be chained. A few different forms of storage or modern computing, I say that in air quotes, existed in the 1960s that could hold a quote computer program. Often it included a paper punch system, and this guy. These look like gas tanks, but they are not. They are the early stages of disk drives, and that woman is to scale. And these two were not ideal. These two machines were not ideal to be put on a shuttle and sent off into space. First off, they were bulky. They were heavy. If you can get that and two other men inside a space shuttle and then launch it, more power to you. But obviously, they're going to be too heavy to send a human into space. Even if we take out the weight of the equation, the program still needed to be able to withstand shock, the vibration, and g-forces of a launch, extreme temperature changes, and cosmic radiation. Basically all that we will talk about in the spacesuit section. And the memory storage had to be small, lightweight, strong, and robust enough that even if the power suddenly went kaput, you didn't lose the program entirely. Enter core rope memory, or LOL memory. It literally meant little old lady memory, because it often took garment workers, often older women, the skills to weave, yes, hand weave the coding. Coding is broken down to ones and zeros, as most of us know, and translating that code into woven wires and magnetic donuts, such as this, you actually can program a coding system. This looked a lot like rope, and this was very robust. It was incredibly hard to manufacture, but it was the best option for the most storage per cubic centimeter at the time. These are literally the size of the magnetic cores, which are right here, blown up in microscopic view. Just to put this into perspective, the Apollo guidance computer came with a whopping 36 kilobytes of memory. Just to put that in perspective, your tiny SD photo card in a camera or cell phone has almost 1 million times that. But at the time, in 1961, in 1960s, this was revolutionary. And we have garment workers and ladies who know how to weave. Thanks to that, we now have that. And finally, let's talk about the spacesuits. Like I mentioned before, that the computers had to be able to withstand all the hazards of space. Well, you can imagine that the humans have to also withstand all the hazards of space. We have problems such as asphyxiation, which means you could literally suffocate from lack of air. And because we have no air, we have no pressure, which means we could blow up like a balloon, which is terrifying. Boiling body fluids is a thing, and that's also terrifying. And not to mention the huge drastic change of extreme temperature. We have 250 degrees in the sun, or negative 440 degrees Fahrenheit out of the sun. As you can imagine, also with cosmic radiation. And that's not even counting any outside factors, such as like a rogue meteor just whizzing through you at any moment. And keeping this in mind, NASA was like, hey, maybe we should have some protection out here. So government-funded programs such as Hamilton Standard constructed suits that were just like this. They were more like suits of armor rather than actual flexible suits, as in like you can wear them easily. And such as this, these suits were bulky, they were cumbersome, they were not easy to move around in. And if you wanted to be in space and want to get out quick and simply and be comfortable, kind of, you're going to have something a little bit more flexible than a metal suit. And no one knew flexible such as Playtex. That's right, folks. The International Latex Corporation, or ILC, in 1967 was hired, actually sent in a audition tape, so to speak, of their design for a new and improved spacesuit, such as this, of a man actually putting the suit through his paces, doing physical activities like jumping jacks, push-ups, being tackled and doing a tuck and cover, which is incredible. And it showed that this suit was far superior than the metal spacesuits previously thought. These and women of Playtex were actually hired by NASA to construct these spacesuits. And when I mean construct, I mean these women did not, these sewing machines that helped construct the suits, they were not going at like 30 RPM. They were much more precise in accuracy. 21 layers of gossamer thin fabric were used to construct the suits. And these weren't $5 to $6 a yard kind of fabrics. Each layer cost nearly $3,000. There's 21 layers. I can't do that math right now, but I can assure you it's a lot. No mistakes were allowed in these designs. Each stitch was inspected. NASA would literally x-ray every seam twice to make sure there were no stray pins involved in any of the garments, because if you had any stray pins, that meant air could be leaking out, and that means you could die. And women of ILC knew the risk and took it really seriously that they were in charge of keeping a human being safe and alive in space. And none of the spacesuits in the Apollo program failed thanks to them, which is remarkable. And just to give you an idea, each piece was sewn within 1/64th of an inch. To give you an idea, if you hold up your thumb tip to your thumb knuckle, that's about an inch. Now half that's your thumb to your ending of your fingernail, and if you half that again, that's about 1/4 of an inch. Half that, 1/16th. Half that, 1/32nd, and half that one more time, that's 1/64th of an inch. Really detailed. But thanks to them, we now have people granting and on space. You can find both Hidden Figures, The Right Stuff, which actually talks about the early stages of the NASA program, both on Disney+. This is in part with National Geographic. I highly recommend you check that out. Also, Mercury 13, the trailer which I showed for you guys, that is also on Netflix. And I briefly mentioned the WASP program. Women of Air Force service pilots, they have their own documentary on Amazon Prime. And if you want to find out more about these marvelous women, you can easily check that out. And here's my resources, guys. You know what that means. Yeah, it's time for me to stop my presentation. Hopefully you guys learned something from this. I know I did while researching. And hopefully you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.